many of you guys really thought we would get to this point where we're talking about a potential elimination game from the Big 12 championship between Kansas State and Oklahoma State? Oklahoma State had their chance to get their big win at home. They had Utah at home. Cam Rising was out, and they fell short. And then on the other side of the coin here, you have Kansas State. Got absolutely embarrassed against BYU. That is probably the worst version of Kansas State that you're going to see. But mind you, they really only got dominated in basically a 5-minute snapshot at the end of the second quarter and at the beginning of the third quarter, where BYU took over, and then the punt return was the icing on the cake. This Kansas State team, to me, is going to be a really good football team. And to me, the question really lies with the Oklahoma State Cowboys. I really like Mike Gundy, but I'm very disappointed with how this offensive line has opened up in the run game for Ollie Gordon. Now Ollie Gordon and the rest of his run game cannot get going for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. But despite the run struggles, Kansas State, they still lost to BYU, facing a team that has struggled to run the football. And that's really what we got to look at is Kansas State just figured out a way to lose to a team that can't run the football. That's going to be Oklahoma State's recipe to winning or finding a run game. Maybe this is the game that Ollie Gordon in this run game breaks out. So the big key for Kansas State to win this game is going to be pretty simple. Avery Johnson in this offense needs to protect the ball. DJ Giddens also had a fumble. It doesn't go solely on Avery Johnson with what the disaster was against BYU with the turnovers. So the big thing that I'm going to be looking for is Avery Johnson to be a true dual threat in this ball game, but to expose the air game. I'm looking at Jace Brown. I'm looking at Dante Cephas being able to step up. Cam Smith, the big liability for this Oklahoma State secondary. I don't want to call the kid out, and I think he could become a pretty good player and get a little bit better. But he has been the weak link of that secondary, and Kansas State is going to try to expose that. When you take a look at how Oklahoma State has fared on that side of the ball, you see a team in Oklahoma State that has really struggled to stop the pass game, but has done a decent job in the run game. And I know the stats are there and they are what they are. They aren't able to commit as many resources in the run game. And overall, like, their defense has not been impressive whatsoever. But I do think that their rush defense is not horrible. And they're going to have a challenge on their hands. If Kansas State can utilize Mr. Avery Johnson on the ground and then use that two-headed monster at running back in DJ Giddens and Dylan Edwards properly, this is going to be tough to stop. A couple of key players to watch for: the safety coming down and helping Trey Rucker, and the middle linebacker Nick Martin is a really good player to watch out for. So, all in all, when you're talking about when Kansas State has the football, I cannot see a path where Kansas State doesn't finish drives and score points here. At least like 24 points minimum for Kansas State. So how's this Oklahoma State offense going to be able to attack? We already established they can't really run the ball with Ollie Gordon. Major disappointment there. Well, I don't know. This has been a very good passing attack this year. Alan Bowman has been able to be efficient in the short and intermediate game. But when it comes to deep balls, not as much. 5 for 20. 25% on deep balls with a sample size of 20 attempts. It's not very good for Mr. Alan Bowman, the seventh-year senior. But despite that, they're playing against a secondary in Kansas State that has to play better. Up until this point, they've allowed their opposing teams to complete 70.7% of their passes against the secondary. It's not very good. Though I don't think Oklahoma State's going to necessarily be able to hit the downfield shots on a consistent basis. Maybe they hit one in this game. And I'd be surprised if they're able to hit like 2. I think that Oklahoma State's also going to be able to score. I think they're going to be able to throw the ball, and I think their throw game is going to open up the run game with Ollie Gordon just a little bit more. And I think they're going to have a little bit more success on the ground. But this is a very, very good Kansas State rush defense. They're not going to be able to run all over them when you really thought that that would be their identity this year. That just has not turned out to be the case. So overall in this game, when I'm looking at the concerns of both teams, similar to Oklahoma State versus Utah, I said with or without Cam Rising, I'm trusting the better defense. With everybody playing in this game, I trust the better defense. But I definitely think stylistically, this will be different. Oklahoma State will be able to score a lot more, and Kansas State will also be able to score a lot more than Utah did last week. But I'm going with the better defense. For a second consecutive week in a row, I'm picking against the Pokes of Oklahoma State. Kansas State rebounds. They win in a little bit of a shootout, 38-34 in Manhattan, and get back in the win column in front of their